The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection is one step closer to holding another Trump ally in contempt. Last night, the panel voted unanimously to recommend contempt charges against former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark. For more on this now, we want to bring in Nikole Killion. So, Nikole, we found out during last night's hearing that the panel isn't moving forward with a full House vote just yet. Why is that?
Well, basically, Jeffrey Clark and his legal team sent a letter to the committee, in essence, saying that they were willing to cooperate. And so in doing so, the committee did move forward with voting on this contempt report, but it's also allowing Jeffrey Clark the opportunity to appear for a deposition again. That is expected to happen this weekend. So in light of that, we don't expect the House to move to a full contempt vote until potentially next week, depending on how things go with Mr. Clark.
So just remind us who Jeffrey Clark is and why the panel is investigating him.
So Jeffrey Clark is a former Department of Justice official, considered a Trump loyalist. He was someone who appeared willing to go along with the former president's efforts to try to overturn the election. And so at one point, even the former president had considered installing him as acting attorney general over his then acting attorney general, Jeff Rosen. And that was something that a number of Justice Department officials threatened to resign had the former president move forward with that. But Jeffrey Clark was someone who was willing to, try to send letters to states, namely Georgia and others, to try to see if they would potentially impact their electors or kind of switch the outcome of the election, if you will. It's kind of something that was floated at the time ahead of January 6th. So because of his involvement there and in these discussions with the former president, that is why the committee wants to speak with him. But up until now, he did appear for a deposition a couple of weeks back, but in essence didn't really answer many of the committee's questions. Now he says he wants to invoke his Fifth Amendment rights, but again, we'll just have to see how this next deposition goes this weekend.
Yeah. So is this case different than the contempt charges against Steve Bannon?
Well, it is in the sense that Bannon really didn't cooperate. He never showed up for any kind of deposition, blatantly defied the committee. So from that standpoint, their circumstances are different. As I mentioned, Jeffrey Clark did attempt to go to a deposition, appeared in person. We got him on camera. He just didn't necessarily answer the committee's questions. And so that has frustrated the panel, but they have made clear that anyone who doesn't comply, whether it's not showing up for something or whether it's not answering questions to the fullest extent possible, then the committee has shown, especially with this vote again Wednesday night, that they are willing to take action. But again, in this instance, they're giving Jeffrey Clark a little more time to fall in line, try to cooperate. But again, if they can't resolve that, then the committee does stand ready to move forward with these contempt charges, which could go to the full House at some point.
And then speaking of Bannon, several top news organizations are sort of echoing his calls to have the documents related to his contempt of Congress charges, to have those documents released. What more can you tell us?
This is something we're still learning the details of, but a number of news organizations are involved as far as, wanting to access these documents. In the case of Steve Bannon, there has been some concern by the Department of Justice that he's trying to litigate his case through the media. And so that is a concern as far as how that could affect the outcome of the charges against him right now in terms of contempt of Congress. So that has been an ongoing legal battle. But now we do see news organizations showing an interest in also trying to get at some of these documents that Bannon and his team believe should be accessed.
So listen, before we let you go, what is the latest on a potential government shutdown? The deadline's like tomorrow, right?
Right, but who's counting? Look, I mean, this is the thing with Congress. Sometimes things go smoothly, sometimes they don't. This was a week where we thought things would go smoothly, but we have seen a number of hiccups on a number of major must-do items. So funding the government is no different. At this point, there was the hope that there could be a short-term continuing resolution to keep the government operating past December 3rd. And it appears that, negotiators, those who have been working on this, are close. There's been some back and forth over how long this continuing resolution should be extended. If it should be extended into January, perhaps February, or longer. But the hope is that, negotiators are able to come to an agreement where they can get this to the House floor as soon as today. The hope was that they could have put it on the House floor yesterday, but Majority Leader Steny Hoyer said that simply wasn't happening because they didn't have a bill. But you do have a number of conservative Republicans, both in the House and the Senate, who are threatening, even if there is a short-term bill to fund the government, to potentially block it because they are opposed to the Biden administration's vaccine mandates. And so they want to make a point about that. So, it's still very tenuous now. But, the hope and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell told me earlier this week that, people shouldn't be worried. There's not going to be a shutdown. Obviously, the time is ticking. We know congressional leaders want to try to avoid that. But again, there are some other factors at play that could impact this.
Right. Nikole Killion, thank you very much.
You bet.